What do you want to watch tonight? That can be one of the most terrifying questions if you're not locked and loaded with some underrated horror picks. Hello my fellow Dreadites, welcome to Dread Alert. I'm Vince and here are some classic horror films spanning all the horror subgenres from the 70s through today. The 70s saw a horror renaissance with films like Martin, George Romero's vampire film starring John Amplas about a man who believes himself to be a vampire, but I'm not so sure. Torso from 1973 is arguably the first slasher film. I'm not so sure it's a fully formed slasher as it still has one foot firmly placed in giallo. Directed by Sergio Martino, who was a work-for-hire director, not necessarily a giallo director, this movie's incredibly well made and really redefined what giallo could be. Moving on to the 80s, arguably the golden age of horror. First on our list is The Fun House, directed by Texas Chainsaw Massacre's own Tobe Hooper. This movie is madcap, it is over the top, and it has one of the best creature reveals I have ever seen. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, is a dark look at the psychology of a serial killer. It is gritty, it's unflinching, it's raw, and it stars Michael Rooker, so you can't go wrong. In the 90s, horror reinvented itself again, but films like The Dentist, directed by Brian Yuzna and starring Corbin Burnson, are worthy of your attention. Post-Scream, we have films like Urban Legend, which is outstanding and more than just a Scream clone. And we also have films from David Lynch like Lost Highway, which is a mind-bending psychological thriller that I absolutely love. In the 2000s, I think horror was trying to find its footing in a post-Scream landscape. Films like Neil Marshall's debut, Dog Soldiers from 2002, featured giant werewolves and a team of people in an isolated location, and it feels a lot like a trial run for Neil Marshall's follow-up film, The Descent. The Skeleton Key from 2005 is a Southern Gothic film, and it's one of my absolute favorites from the period, starring Kate Hudson and Peter Sarsgaard. It is a surprisingly sensitive look at hoodoo and non-traditional religious practice in the South, and it's pretty scary for a PG-13 movie. The 2010s saw a lot of studio franchise films, but some that were off the beaten path were Sinister from 2012, solidifying Ethan Hawke as a horror icon. I think this is one of the most underrated films of the decade. Gravy from 2015 is a horror comedy written and directed by James Roday Rodriguez and starring Jimmy Simpson, two of the best voices in television comedy, in my opinion. This one is as hilarious as it is gnarly. And for the 2020s, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Stream from Fuzz on the Lens Productions, directed by Michael Levy, starring David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown himself, and with special effects by Damien Leone. You know this one is going to be a bloodbath, and with a sequel on the way, you'd do yourself a favor by checking this one out as soon as possible. For another Italian film on the list, I'd recommend The Well from 2024, starring Lauren Lavera, again from the Terrifier franchise. It's an Italian Gothic film that walks right up to the line of splatter genre films. These are my picks for some hidden gem horror movies from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. Do you have any to add to the list? Let us know in the comments, and stay spooky, my friends.